Welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Jesse. We're joined with Brandon today remotely. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing well, guys. It's a little weird.
It is. It's a little different. Where are you at today?
I am in Yuma, Arizona.
Wow, other side of the country. What's the weather like down there?
It's actually cold. Crazy thing. So, I decided to jump in the truck and we drove 30 hours south. And as I started getting closer to Arizona, I'm thinking taking the jacket off, the hat off. I got out of the truck in Arizona to fill the truck up. It was 9 degrees.
And you're like, no, I'm putting that back on right now.
I'm like, I drove 30 hours for 9 degrees. What happened?
It's warmer. It's warmer here.
Well, no, it was not. When it was 9 degrees, you guys were at negative 12. So
okay.
I'll still take 9 degrees.
Okay, send some of that heat our way. What do you do?
Yeah.
What are you doing down in Arizona?
I'm doing a little bit of racing this week. We have the Winter Nationals going on, so we're gonna have a little fun this week.
This is your second year down there?
It's my second year down there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
We work hard to play hard. So we're having a little bit of fun this week, and then obviously we'll be back in the office. But as 24 hours in the day, and I'm gonna use every one of them. So
we're
still working.
Thanks for joining us this morning, man. Even though you're on vacation.
A rookie has won the Piston Cup.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate everybody still listening. I mean, hopefully the audio is okay. Like I said, trying to do this remotely makes it a little bit more difficult. I know Garrett's going to do his magic. He'll push all of his fancy buttons and make this sound like it's normal.
We gonna try.
Lamb Chop had it dialed in. You sounded pretty good.
And I told you, I'll take care of it.
That's good. Yeah, and the other thing is, obviously try not to bore everybody too bad. We're going to probably keep the episode a little bit shorter today, just simply because of the fact that it's really hard to do this remotely. Obviously, I don't get to be in the utility closet there with you guys. Hey, who's sitting on my bucket?
That would be Garrett. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you that though.
Garrett, you're sitting on my bucket?
I'm on your bucket, sir.
Unbelievable.
Sorry, man. We had to be close together for this one.
You guys are all lonely.
It's different. It's different. We're kind of supporting each other with you gone today.
Hey, are we gonna talk machines today, like some differences and whatnot, or what are we doing?
Yeah, I think today's episode, I think we should talk a little bit about, we get the question a lot, like from listeners and honestly people just who browse our website, like, which model do I need, or what's the difference? Like, I don't know what I don't know.
Right. We get that a lot.
So I think it's a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about, like, all the way from the bottom to the top, when you start looking at, the most affordable solution all the way up to the most expensive solutions. And, not just in router, but I think we got to do it in plasma as well.
Yeah.
We sell a wide range of machines, and I think there's a good topic there. I think there's a lot of things we could discuss. And, I don't think everything we say in terms of the topic is going to be able to be, 100% set in stone, if you will. Like, I don't think that, hey, if you do this, you should never, ever buy that machine. We're going to give you some general guidelines.
Right, most ideal fit.
This is what this machine's ideal situation is, but that doesn't mean you can't use it for other things, So, we're just going to try to guide you. Obviously, ultimately, at the end of the day, the number one guidance thing you're going to have is going to be a budget, right? Most people are going to, shop based on their budget. We understand that. But, our goal here is to show you that, sometimes you got to look beyond budget. You got to look at what specifically you're buying.
What's the right tool for the job?
That's more importantly, right?
Right. Like what's the right tool for the job? What's the most economical for what you're doing?
Yeah. It kind of goes back to the old joke of, hey, I got a wrench and that can be used as a hammer, but is it really the best hammer? Like, no.
Right.
So you have to really think about, what the application is, what the budget is, what are we trying to accomplish long term? Hey, if you tell me I just need something to get me by for 90 days, okay, well, that's a very different conversation than a guy who's like, you know what, I don't want to buy a second machine.
Right. Or like your hobbyist that's doing it out of the garage versus a full-fledged cabinet company, right? Those machines aren't going to be the same.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, when you're doing this thing, full time and you're running it around the clock, yeah, your demand is going to be significantly more than, a guy who's going to wander out in the garage on a Saturday morning and make a few projects and wander back in the house, So yeah. You got to think about that stuff. So I think that's really where I'd like to go with some of this stuff personally. But more importantly, before we jump into this thing, because it's way too early in the morning here, because remind you, it's at 5 in the morning there, so it's 4 in the morning here, guys. So
you're used to that. You're used to that.
What's that?
You're used to that.
Yeah, no, I know, but I gotta ask. We didn't touch on it, but how was your guys' New Year's?
Oh, it was really calm. I think I was asleep every night this weekend by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Garrett, did you go do something just crazy cool this weekend?
Well, we took a 24-hour trip down to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, about a 10-hour round trip commute. So that was a good time. It was cold though. I think game time Sunday night was 4 degrees. So I mean, we were bundled up. I think I had 3 layers on bottom, 4 on top, ski mask, the whole bit. It was fun. We got stomped on. I mean, we didn't even stay for the whole game, but it was a cool experience. We got to see Lambeau Field. We got to see the environment there and what those fans do. So it was a fun time.
Did you see the big billboard for John Madden?
I did not.
Yeah, I guess the citizens of Green Bay paid for a billboard with John Madden on it.
I didn't see that. We saw Vince Lombardi standing there in his frozen statue. That was pretty neat.
He must have been cold.
He was cold. He had a jacket on at least.
That's good.
Yeah.
I did see that. Billboard you're talking about, Jesse. They showed it on TV, and that was a pretty cool thing. I was pretty taken back by that. Obviously, John Madden kind of being a legacy in his own. But I was going to ask you about that, Garrett. Like I said, I saw some pictures online. Looked like you guys were freezing. It was. Like you guys looked like you're all getting ready to go snowboarding, but then I saw you were at the game. So pretty cool experience. Super close game. I know that, it was a real nail biter. Came down to the end.
It was close.
For about 3 minutes.
Yeah. It was fun. It was worth the experience. I would do it again.
That's cool. That's super awesome. Well, obviously we won't bore people with sports talk, but I wanted to see how your guys' New Year's were, because obviously we talked a little bit about it at the end of the year, and it was a whirlwind. The end of 2021, it happened so fast. One day we were talking in, middle of July, and the next day we were wishing everybody a Happy New Year. So
right.
It flew. It absolutely flew.
Pretty crazy end of the year. We had record-breaking numbers. It was just awesome. I mean, I have to thank every person on our team. I have to thank every person that's, potentially going to be a customer, and all the customers that are, now customers, the ones who purchased. You got to thank everybody, because really we don't do any of this stuff without the listeners, without the people. So,
dude, our customers helped us crush it this last month.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's pretty awesome. Like I said, we can't say enough good things about that. But jumping into things here, let's talk a little bit about CNC machines.
Yeah. Well, you want to start off with 23?
I think we should. Yeah, let's talk about 23. 23, what we call our most entry-level model. And I hate that word, entry-level, because it makes you think like less of the machine. But the reality is, we call it entry-level because it's the most affordable way to get into something with the name ShopSabre on it. Right. And I think that's where people go wrong, is you get these calls from people, and they're like, I found this machine and it's $3,000 cheaper than your machine. Yep, it is. You're 100% right. Like, at the end of the day, the 23 was not built to be quote-unquote cheap. The 23 was built to be affordable. Right. It was built to be something that gets you into something that has that blue color to it and has the ShopSabre name on it, but gives you something that you could be proud to own. And that's the 23. The 23 realistically is found in a lot of different applications. The actual whole development of the 23 was kind of a funny thing. We developed it simply because we wanted to put something in my, I wanted to put something in my home garage. And as we were developing that 23, it was actually my brother and I, we were coming up with some ideas, and originally it was going to be built out of extruded aluminum, just this, really entry-level solution. And I realized, like, hey, we have all this extra material out back. Like, let's just use that and build this machine for my house. And so we started building this machine out of literally spare material that, came off of bigger machines. And one of the engineers was looking at it, and he's like, yeah, we can do better than this, and my dad jumped in, and like, it literally just turned into something that was never supposed to be. Like, it just kept, evolving. And at the end of the day, it turned into a machine that, in my honest opinion, is well overbuilt for what it is. It could easily, take on its own life of, hey, we can add options to it. We can increase price and make it a more production machine. Like, I think there's a lot this thing can do, but the reality is it was designed for a guy who wants to put something in his home garage, in his home shop. That's what it's best for. Now, that being said, we see that machine a lot in prototyping applications. We see it in R&D applications, right? Yep. I mean, that's a common place that you see that stuff.
Schools too.
I guess, as I start to look at where that fits, we see a lot of sign shops, storefront sign shops. That's one thing I would say is, a big machine, makes sense for a lot of sign shops. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes that doesn't really work real well for you, but it's really great. If you're a storefront shop or you're really limited on real estate,
right?
It's a great way to get into CNC. And I'm not going to tell you it's going to be a production machine. It's not going to be something that you're going to necessarily, want to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we have people that do it.
We do.
I have customers of mine that own multiple 23s. And they run them in kind of a cell, where you got a bunch of them running together. And, I got a guy that does holsters, and he builds holsters with these 23s over and over and over. And I mean, he runs them all the time. And like I said, so the machine is very capable. Full ball screwdriver machine, steel gantry. That's what makes it kind of unique, is it's not an extruded aluminum system.
Definitely didn't cut corners.
It still
on
has
this
a
one.
milled frame, just like our big machines. Like I said, the ball screws still give it the accuracy. It's just not going to be designed for high cutting forces. It is it's a lighter, smaller machine on purpose. That's how we keep the price down, is that we aren't gonna, make it a 5,000 pound machine. We want to make it manageable to put in your garage. But that's a really, I think, is there anything I'm missing there, Jesse, that you would touch on?
No, man. I think you hit it right on the head. It's mom and pop. It's the small time stuff, but it still will produce just an amazing amount of work at such a high level. And it's a heavy machine. It still is a heavy machine, like you said. You wanted to make it to where you could still move it around the garage, but you guys didn't cut any corners when you designed that at all. And with the stand, it's almost 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about that, that's true. And, you look at some of the machines out there, and it's like our gantry on our 23 weighs as much as some of the machine's entire package. So, we definitely have done some, reinforcement of that machine. And, I think what blows me away the most about that machine is that it's the edge quality you can achieve with that, the finishes, the detail, what people are achieving with those 23s. Like, I don't think anybody truly realizes how capable that machine is. Even if you don't have a big budget, it's a great solution to get in, because it gives you the ability to step up to that next level. The next level machine as you grow. You're not relearning software. That's the beauty of our 23, that uses the same controller as our next level up machines. So you're not having to relearn everything. So that's where it makes sense to buy that machine, even if it's only a stepping stone to the next level.
Right. I agree with you.
So in what applications do you think would, for someone listening, if they're not sure, is it 23 for me, or do you think I need to step up to like an RC or a Pro? What kind of applications are more suited for the 23 versus maybe needing to go to that next level?
Yeah, I think when you start looking at it, I think the 23, I mean, as I said earlier, I think it's the R&D application, the prototyping. I think that's really where you see that, or the entry level. You're at home, you have a home shop and just want to make some, odds and ends, things of that sign, some of that stuff. I think that's really where the 23 fits. As you start to step up, I think that's when we start looking at that RC model. And as you get into the RC model, the RC stands for recreational craft, for people who are wondering. And it is exactly what the name says. It is designed for your recreational craft use, where you realistically need a bigger footprint. It's not necessarily going to be, your small footprint machine. It's still, the smallest one of that one is a 4x4. The largest one's a 4x8.
Yep.
And the word recreational craft is meant to be more so the technology. I say that because a lot of companies out there, they push this technology, the rack and pinion. You got to buy a rack and pinion system, blah, blah. It's because that's what they can sell you. They don't have a ball screw system. But at the end of the day, if we're being honest and we're comparing ball screw versus rack and pinion, I'm never going to put a ball screw machine in the same class as a rack and pinion machine. The ball screw machines are our next level up.
Yeah.
And so the recreational craft name comes from that. It does not have some of the more advanced technology, but that's why it comes with a more affordable price tag. I mean, that's why you can get into one of those, in the mid 20s for a 4x8, that is got some nice features, where when you start looking at ball screw machines, you're going to be 10 grand higher, at minimum. So, when you start looking at that, that's really where the RC kind of fits, is that middle market, I always call it. You might be a serious hobbyist for one. That's one great application for it. You're doing stuff still in your garage, but you don't want to work with a 2 foot by 3 foot area like that 23 has. You want to have the ability to put a full sheet or a half a sheet up on the table, right? That's where I think the RC comes in. And the beauty of the RC is that it has the ability to do some of the more, advanced features. For one, you could put a tool changer on the RC. You can't do that on the 23. So it gives you a more advanced hobbyist capability, if you will. But it also, it does fit in an application where it's, less accurate, right? Maybe guys who aren't trying to hold, you're not holding aerospace tolerances, obviously. You're trying to cut shapes. You're trying to cut high production, but not necessarily high accuracy. I mean, that's a great application for it. The RC is very capable in that situation. I mean, I don't think there's anything that I would take away from the RC in that, right? I mean, anything I'm missing there?
No, I think you said it really, really good there, Brandon. It's for that middle class, or the guys that are taking this a little more seriously. They might be doing it, daily or nightly for a couple hours working on projects, but they don't desire the accuracy. They don't need the accuracy, say, that a cabinet company would need per se, or maybe with the RC, like, they don't mind a little more hands-on, maybe doing a little more edge finishing, a little more post-processing.
Yeah, so and that's exactly it. I think that's when you start to look at that RC model. The RC model does give you, still some really, high-end capabilities. I mean, I've seen some cuts off that RC model that, I'll be honest with you, you're not going to find from machines that cost twice as much. I mean, that RC is very capable. It's very well engineered. Still, it's a steel frame, steel gantry. It's still another advantage to it. It's still servo driven.
Yep.
So it gives you some upgrades there, and as you start looking at that machine, you get yourself into a scenario where you're going to have a lot of technology packed into really a more affordable solution than what, you're looking at, unfortunately, companies out there that are charging 2 to 3 times what we're charging for that RC for the same technology. You're not getting anything more. It's just because they don't have an upgrade, they're going to try to charge what we charge for our higher end machines so they can make their profits, and for us, we're really more about what does the technology really cost? Where's the realistic market for that machine? And that's kind of how it's always fit. For us, when we built that RC, it was built around the idea of give somebody an entry-level cost solution. And really, the RC was developed 100% because, for a while there, the Chinese, influx of machines, it became kind of apparent that people were willing to sacrifice quality for price. And we realized, okay, as an American manufacturer, there's got to be a way to build an American-made machine, yet compete with these, imported prices. And so that's where the RC was developed. And we literally took the specs from these overseas machines and said, okay, how can we achieve that in American-made product? And we started sourcing parts that weren't from, overseas, and started building a machine that was designed around those specs. And so it really gives you the ability where when you look at this, it's like, okay, we have the same exact spec machine that you're going to get from these importers, but it's got a USA flag on it. Which one do you want to buy? And that's really what it's about, is I can give you the American support. I can give the American warranty. I can give you all of this stuff that you're not getting from buying overseas or from an importer, but you're still not giving up any different, performance. So it's like, if you're going to buy a Chinese product anyways, you might as well consider an American-made solution for a similar price, right?
Right, and it's not like it's the same machine. You guys took the specs of that machine and you improved on it. You made it better.
Correct. Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest with you. We don't do anything like, hey, we're going to copy this person.
Right,
we don't do that. That's not who we are,
Exactly.
Our engineering department would probably beat me up if they ever, were told to copy something. Those guys, they're so prideful on, what they do. They don't want to copy anybody else either. They feel like they can do it better. So they're like, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, give me a few days. And they go to work. You see how it is. I mean, Jesse, it's the same as you guys up there, except for they're a little smarter than all of us.
Right. Right.
So it sounds like there's a time and place for ball screw and rack and pinion. Help me make sense of that. What would make sense in what different applications for those 2 things?
Yeah, I think, Garrett, why are you asking so many hard questions this morning?
You like that? You like that?
God.
He wants you on your game, sir. He wants to see what you know.
Yeah.
Make sure you're still working over there in
this.
Arizona.
It's like I'm sitting over here like, okay, he's going to throw me a softball. I'm like, no, we're just going to keep hammering me.
Yeah, he is on fire for you this morning.
God. It's because I'm not in the office. I can't say anything to him about it,
Yeah, there's nothing you can do, and I'm over here encouraging it.
What's that?
There's nothing you can do, and I'm also over here encouraging him. You can't see me, but I'm cheering him on.
Well, what you can't see is I'm sitting here with a bunch of donuts in front of me here at the hotel. So, joke's on you.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, joke's on you.
You got milk?
Yeah, so to answer your question there, Garrett, it's actually a really good question. One thing I would say is that, with rack and pinion versus ball screw, trying to make sense of it is really, what are you looking to accomplish? For one, if you tell me, Brandon, I'm price driven, I'm going to tell you have to look at rack and pinion. Rack and pinion is cheaper. If you tell me you're looking at long-term effects, well, then look at ball screw, because a ball screw drive system is going to last 3 to 4 times longer in life expectancy. I mean, just simple ball bearing versus gear mentality. And as you start looking at, there's less maintenance in a ball screw drive system. Generally speaking, upfront costs are higher in a ball screw to invest in it, but long-term ownership costs are less because there's less maintenance with a ball screw. When you start looking at the application specifics, where does a rack and pinion system come in versus a ball screw system? Well, rack and pinion is generally going to be your lower tolerance application. And when I say that, it's like, what are you using to cut? Okay, if I'm using a bit, right? Okay, well, the bit has certain tolerances in itself, right? So depending on what you're trying to hold, the bit may be your limiting factor, right? But in certain applications, like the material is your limiting factor, or if you're not using a bit, as an example, plasma, well, now your limiting factor is no longer the bit. It's now a flame. Well, a flame's a lot less accurate than a bit. So as you start getting these different applications, as you see with plasma doesn't require the tighter tolerances that you see with a ball screw, because the reality is the flame will never hold the tolerances of what a ball screw can hold. So, on average, a typical flame is plus or minus 5 thousandths is what I always would say. So, when you look at that 10 thousandths variance, well, a 1,000th repeatability with a ball screw isn't really going to get you anywhere. You're not going to gain anything with having that, because your flame is still your limitation. So that's where you start to look at that stuff. And when you start looking at, things like tooling, well, there are some, high speed tooling, and there's some, aerospace machining stuff. And that's where ball screws start to come into play, is because as these, that's why you see them milling centers and these tighter tolerance applications, because that is where the drive technology is actually going to factually show up. And so that's where you start to see the differences in technology. So there are an application specific, need for rack and pinion. I mean, it's lower tolerances, lower cut forces is another thing, because it's a gear, you don't produce the same amount of tolerance. So that being said, a rack and pinion system can still be accurate. I mean, I don't want anybody listening to be like, I have a rack and pinion system. It's very accurate. Like, it's not going to not be accurate. Like, if it's built right, it should be accurate. But it's not going to be as accurate as a ball screw. Like, just facts are facts. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but like, you can't make a gear hold the same tolerances as a ball bearing. Like, they physically are unable to do that. Like, you can get close, and the reality is you're going to do a lot more work. With rack and pinion, you're going to think about more maintenance and to maintain those tolerances. That's really where the differences come into it. If you tell me, Brandon, I'm cutting parts day in and day out in a production environment, they need to be very similar, yada, yada, yada. Like, well, you know what? Then you probably should get a ball screw unless you like to work on machines, because you're going to work on it a lot to maintain that accuracy. And that's where the biggest differences are. It's not that you can't achieve it. I think that's what people hear. Oh, you can't do that. No, it's not that you can't do that. You're probably not willing to do it. That's the problem. Like, and how do you say that nicely? Like, how do I say nicely to somebody that, like, hey, the reason I don't want to sell you the rack and pinion machine is because you're not going to do the work you need to do it. You know, like, I don't want to get yelled at because you think my machine's not doing its job. And the reality is you're not putting the time or effort in to actually get it to hold the tolerances. If you had the resources to do it, you're going to achieve it just fine. But most people have bigger things to worry about in their job. I got stuff going on. I got, too many jobs on my plate. We've talked about it, right? I don't have time to do anything else, but now I'm going to add something else in there. Like, you didn't have time to talk to the sales guy about which machine you should buy, but you're going to suddenly have the amount of time to go through this machine every single day to hold the tolerances you need to. Like,
it's not going to happen.
Real. That's right.
Nah, people are too busy. There's too much going on. It's not that people are lazy. It's just there's so much going on. Do you really want to add that to your list of things to do?
Correct. Yeah, and I don't think anybody's saying anybody's lazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of lazy people out there too, but it's not that. I mean, what we're saying is that the majority of people who are business owners and running this stuff, the people listening to this podcast, they're not lazy.
No, not at all.
The people who are listening to us aren't those people. The people we're talking to are, you're too busy. You didn't have the time to even sit down for 5 minutes to talk about the CNC machine, and now you want to have the time to work on a machine for an hour a day? Like, that's not true. You just want to pick up that machine, go to work every day. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that, with the rack and pinion versus ball screw topic, that's the rack and pinion system. That is the RC series. It's recreational craft. You're not abusing the time on the machine. You're not running this thing full production where, again, who uses the RC, right? Let's name some of these things off, Jesse. I think, sign makers are one. We see the RC, sign makers are and a low application sign maker. We do see some woodworkers, when you start looking at some cabinetry guys, right? I mean, it's usually not production cabinets, but I mean, maybe a periodic use, cabinetry. It's still better than a table saw, right? I mean, it's still going to save you time there.
Oh, for sure. You're going to see it. You're going to see it with some furniture guys. I've seen a couple furniture guys buy RCs.
Yep, that's also another application where you see that, but that's really, and I'm going to be honest, like there's not a lot of other applications where you run into that. It's really kind of some of the, I've seen some event production companies where it's like, as an example, I have a customer of mine who cuts climbing walls, right? He even said, he's like, the edge finish doesn't matter, and it's just geometry parts that, I don't really care about it. So, for him, it was like, I need a cost-effective solution that's cheaper than hiring a guy to cut things out. Well, there's your answer, right? The RC is a good solution.
Yep.
Now, that's where you take the next step up, though, is, okay, maybe that's not me. I do need a little bit more than that. Okay, well, that's where the Pro comes in, right? The Pro line, hands down, most popular machine we sell.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
For sure.
And the reason it is because it's, depending on who you speak to be honest with you, it's got two meanings. It's production or professional, depending on who you're speaking to within the organization. It's funny, we still have this common argument about well, no, that's a production machine. No, that's a professional machine. Either way, it's right. It's the production professional machine. At the end of the day, it's designed around the idea that you are doing something with a purpose or a plan, right? You're running a product, you're running a business. You have to build these machines to be able to do that. We need to build these machines to be able to withstand that expectation. You're going to go into work every day, 8 to 5 at a minimum, and you want this machine to turn on any given day. And you know what? Some days you're going to need to work at overtime because it's going to be a Friday night and you got to work late to get a job done, or sometimes you're going to come in on the weekend to get caught up. That's what this machine is designed to do. The Pro Series is designed around the idea that you are going to look like a professional when you're running that machine. You are going to be able to produce top-notch finishes and quality. And that's really what the Pro is designed around, is that ball screw drive system, aerospace milled frame, the heavier gantry. There is not a machine in the class, and I will say this hands down with confidence, there's not a single machine in the class for the price point of a Pro Series that will touch the technology. It is the most advanced machine on the market.
Not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
Find me one. I ask people all the time, find me
that. Garrett?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with that? You're gonna agree with us that the Pro Series, you do a lot of this stuff online. You've seen it. You don't know. Let's be honest, Garrett. You don't know a lot about CNC machines, right? You know enough. You've learned over the last year of being here and doing the stuff you're doing. But even from the research and the stuff you talk to people about, realistically, the differences in the Pro Series versus some of the other models that you run into. You've seen it yourself firsthand. You've seen some of the stuff customers share with you after owning a Pro coming from these other machines.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like that's a step that people take when they really want to get into, like you said, the professional. I'm working 8 to 10 hours a day. This is what I'm doing, and the results show. They are able to create a lot of parts at a high quality, and that's what it's designed to do.
What's super cool about everything you just said?
Tell me.
I heard nothing because we had our first glitch where the system was just you sounded like a robot and I couldn't hear a word you were saying. But I'm sure what you said was phenomenal. So we're going to just continue to agree with you and say, man, you did a great job with that.
Oh, boy.
No, he crushed it, boss. He crushed it.
Yeah, but being serious, I really didn't hear a dang word you said. It really cut out on me. But, honestly, one thing I want to touch on with the Pro Series is that where the Pro to me comes in is you want to be a real serious shop. You don't want your competition to get a leg up on you. That's where you need a Pro, is when you are worried that, hey, you know what? There are options for my customer to go get something elsewhere. Why are they going to buy from me? You know why they're going to buy from you? Because your edge finishes are going to be superior, because your cut quality is going to be unmatched, because the accuracy is where it needs to be, because you're able to do it day in and day out with dependability. That's where the Pro Series comes in, is that you're not going to spend hours working on your machine trying to make it work. You're going to be able to go to work and make that thing work every day. Now, the Pro Series fits a lot of different, applications. We see, really big in the woodworking market, honestly, cabinetry makers. It's the number one machine. mainly because you can get into MDF doors with it. The ball screws give you that advantage. So you can do MDF doors, you can do raised panel stuff with that. But you see it in the sign industry a lot because, again, in the sign industry, you see guys who want to get into aluminum. And the ability to have a ball screw drive system gives you an advantage with aluminum. So, aluminum applications is another great solution for the Pro Series lineup. You get into, a lot of, like I said, sign makers in general, but, you get into a lot of event production stuff there as well, where you're getting into heavier, higher applications. You're cutting a lot of different stuff for different events. In fact, we got some that have worked with some, fairly big, big corporations out there. I mean, big theme parks, let's put it that way. I won't name drop too many names, but with some pretty big theme parks that, have some pretty well-known characters that use our product to create some of their scenes and events, So there's some cool stuff that you can do with that, and it's really meant for the person that wants to, exceed their customers' expectations. And that's really what it's about. Is accuracy does matter, but speed does too. And that's where the Pro Series kind of falls in line. Agreed?
Absolutely. Are you moving around right now?
What happened?
Are you moving around right now?
I haven't moved. Sitting in the same chair I've been sitting in.
Are you rocking your leg because you're making a noise, and I know you can't sit still for more than 5 minutes?
Well, I mean, it's very possible.
There's a good chance of it.
Possible.
There's a good chance of it.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that.
But no, I think you said that really well, where the Pro Series fits in. You're ready to take it to that next level. You're ready to be that serious business. You're ready to get that production level quality with your business. I think you nailed it.
Correct. No, I think that, and that's exactly like you said. Now I'm worried. Like, what am I fidgeting with? You guys you caught me off guard here, Jesse.
Oh, I just wanted to make you self-conscious. We're all good now.
Oh, we did a great job on that. Thanks so much.
Yep, no problem.
Brandon, you want another question? I can probably come up with one.
Like I'm back home again.
Denied.
Yeah, well, it can't make it any different just because you're gone.
Oh man.
So the Pro is kind of like your first step into a production level machine. After that would be our
Hey,
IS
real quick,
series.
before you get ahead of yourself, what size is the Pro available?
We have 4x4, 4x8, and 5x10, sir.
Okay, so we got 3 different sizes there as well. So far we've covered a 2 foot by 3 foot, 4x4 RC, 4x8 RC, 4x4 Pro, 4x8 Pro, and 5x10 Pro.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now, like you said, let's step it up.
Let's step it up
a little bit.
Let's go to the big boy.
Okay, so now we get into the IS, right? Where does the IS system come in? Like industrial strength is what it stands for.
I thought it was just called the IS.
What did you say to me?
I thought it was the IS machine. It's IS? I never knew that.
Yeah, the IS machine. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the IS. The IS model is the IS.
It could be this
here.
machine is the.
I'm gonna start calling it the IS.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, realistically, the IS is designed for a guy who wants that benefit we talked about with the Pro.
Yeah.
But I need to go faster.
They're busy.
I need to cut heavier cuts. I don't want to slow down. And sometimes, honestly, it's just simply like, I'm not afraid to spend a little bit more money. We're talking only a handful, of money more. I mean, we're talking a few $1,000s more, 5,000, something like that.
I think it's about $6,000.
So
I think it's about $6,000
difference.
I think we're about a $6,000 difference roughly.
$6,000 difference. So, when we start looking at the difference in that for $6,000, it's like sometimes guys are just like, I know I don't need the IS, but I'd rather just get it and not ever need more, right? It's a lot easier to buy your second machine the first time, as we always say. And sometimes it's just get that extra speed because then you're not going to ever outgrow the machine. And that's really, when it comes down to it, the IS series will produce 33% more than the Pro in a single day.
That's crazy.
Like if you run the same thing, 33% more efficiency. So 1/3 more is what you're looking at. And so sometimes it just makes sense to have that, even if you're not running around the clock. And that's what you get these guys that are like, oh, the Pro will do everything I need to, because I'm not gonna need to do more than 3 hours of cutting a day or whatever. That's today. Like, think about that. That's today. You don't have a demand for this machine yet. But what are you going to need to do tomorrow, a year from now, 2 years from now? That's where you need to start thinking about. And sometimes it's simply like, what are you doing? Are you going to go after other people's business? Because sometimes that's what you're going to do, right? You're going to go get more business from other businesses, and people are going to find out you have this machine, and they're going to want more from you. So it makes sense sometimes to think about speed. And sometimes it just comes down to, guys who are like, well, You know, and my favorite one is woodworkers, right? You get guys who are like, oh, I just buy my doors from so-and-so down the street. Well, wait a second here, though. Like, you're going to have a CNC machine, and you have enough cutting to do 3 hours a day, right?
Yep.
So you have another, you know, X amount of time left in the day. I don't know how many hours you're going to work personally, but, you know, let's say, you know, I have, you know, a minimum of 5 hours more, right, throughout the day. That, like, I might as well make my own doors. Yeah, I can buy them cheap, but I can also cut them for free labor, essentially. I already own the machine, right?
Right,
Just
right.
cost material now.
Right.
So sometimes people lose track of that. Like, yeah, I get it. You can buy stuff cheap, but you can also produce it yourself with very little overhead because you already own the equipment. So,
Well, right. And
having
then
that,
there's also
that
like
speed
a
makes sense.
there's also like a pride factor with that too. Not only did you build the cabinets, but I also did the doors. This was completely done by me.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, and like I said, it sometimes just comes down to control. You know, you can control more when you own it, you know, when you're able to do it in-house. And that's where I think the IS comes in. For a lot of people, IS is going to be higher speeds, you know, higher accuracies. When you start looking at it, the IS series has, you know, a handful of advantages. For one, the frame is larger. You know, you'll look at it. You can physically see that. You look at the frame on the IS versus the Pro, and it's a larger frame. Ball screws are a little bit larger. Servo motors are about 2.5 times larger. So
They're huge.
when you start comparing it head to head, it's a big difference.
It is absolutely. The frame is massive. It's noticeably larger. Like you said, the motors are just huge on the IS.
Yeah. We really tried to model the IS table after me, and then like the Pro was kind of modeled after you.
You think so?
Yeah.
Seeing as like I'm bigger than you, I'm funnier than you, I'm way more handsome.
You have that beard, so it knocks all of that down.
Beard's
like
looking pretty good
12
today, ain't it,
notches.
Garrett? We got her tuned in.
I really like it. I love it.
Yeah, these new glasses
I
really
love it.
these new glasses really accented as well.
Garrett.
I'm looking good.
I was fondling
Sure.
it a little bit earlier.
He was rubbing it with his hand.
It's funny because I just got text message from Garrett right now. I'm just gonna read it out loud real quick here. Dear Boss Man Brandon, this beard that Jesse has is absolutely horrible, and he should shave it.
I think that's
Text
a
message I
lie,
just
sir.
got right now.
I don't even know if that's remotely true in
Not
the
at all.
slightest.
Not at all.
Oh well, it's weird. My phone sent me that message. It must have been.
I think you have an issue with your phone.
Garrett.
You've been getting a lot of texts lately that
Must have
just
some spam.
aren't lining up.
Oh man, too much fun. But no, seriously though, like I said, the IS table is just literally it's the big brother to the Pro model. You know, that's really what it is. It's meant to be that next step up if you need it. You know,
Did you just call me your big brother?
I called you my big brother.
Congratulations, big brother.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I like how out of everything I said there, you caught big brother, and somehow I've now called you my big brother.
That's okay. That's okay. I can deal with that. So the IS, obviously, your next step up. You want to get faster. You need to produce more parts. There's also more add-on options for the IS, is there not?
Nope, you're wrong. So moving on. You're right.
I was going to say, I'm in some trouble, sir. I'm in some trouble if I'm wrong.
What happened?
I said, I'm going to be in some trouble if I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, the phone cut out again there, and I had to hear the question twice. But no, yeah, you're right. I mean, one of the most glaring, obvious ones that points out is the boring block. You know, the ability to have that drill head on the IS table.
Right.
And we get the question a lot from people, like, why can't I buy the drill head or the boring block for the Pro? Because you don't need it. Simple as that. Like, you don't need it. Like, that's why I don't sell it on that machine, because it doesn't make any sense any which way you look at it to have it on the Pro. If you need a drill head on a Pro, then you need an IS.
Yep.
Like, simple as that. Like, you should buy an IS because the IS without the drill head is going to produce the same amount of work as a Pro with a drill head. And a drill head is going to cost you $10,000 versus a IS is going to be $6,000 difference. So, hey, here you go. Here's your $4,000 back. You can send that over to me. I could use it for, all kinds of fun activities.
You're gonna need it for race car parts after this week.
Oh my God! I showed up and broke the car 10 minutes after I showed up. So that was
doesn't
pretty
surprise
cool.
me. I've seen it before.
That's a story for another day. But yeah, you're right. Send the money to me, and I will use it on race car parts.
You can put
because
your
I
name
just
on the
saved
side
you
of the car.
$4,000. So it just doesn't make sense. Like I said, the IS table is so efficient that just buy the IS without the drill head, and you'll probably never buy the drill head. Like, being completely honest with you,
Right.
it drills holes so incredibly fast that unless you get into some really high production stuff, like, you're probably never going to buy a drill head. But the beauty of it is the IS can have the drill head added to it. So if you're worried about that ever, buy the IS. That's where it makes sense. Like, go that route versus going with a machine that has to have the drill head on it, right?
Right. And like you'd mentioned earlier, aluminum workers, right? We can rigid tap on the IS.
True. Yeah, that's another good point. That's another option that, is only available on the IS table. Again, if you're getting into aluminum manufacturing or, where you're doing a lot of fabrication of aluminum, it makes sense. If you're going to be drilling and tapping holes, the IS table makes sense there. With that being said, wide range of similar options between the Pro and the IS, but even using the same option on a Pro will work differently than the same option on an IS. And some of that stuff comes into play, like the OptiScout. You can put an OptiScout, the vision recognition system, on the Pro, but because the Pro isn't quite as wide as the IS, it limits you. You have some limited applications with that, where the IS gives you a little bit more functionality with those options. So using a dust stock, a knife, an OptiScout, all that stuff has a little bit more capability on an IS model.
Yeah, absolutely. What that next step from there, Brandon? We would be going to the ISM, correct?
Yeah, correct. So the IS and the ISM are the same machine. Very, very similar machine, I should say. But the difference is the M on the ISM stands for Mitsubishi. Fun fact: the ISM at one point was going to be the ISF.
ISF.
It was going to be a FANUC driven machine, and then Mitsubishi came in and was like, "Hold up, hey, we got some really good stuff here."
Hold up.
But yeah, no, they decided that, hey, let's check out this Mitsubishi controller. And at the time, the reason we didn't really go that route is Mitsubishi had never built a CNC router controller. It's always been mills. And so we were looking for something that gave our customers an edge. Obviously, that's kind of who we are.
Yep.
And they were like, hey, we would be interested in working with your team on developing the first ever Mitsubishi router, application. And so that's really where the ISM came from, is that we worked with them. And honestly, the ISM was a home run. It works absolutely phenomenal. And the advantage to it is, I know this is going to sound crazy, but for a guy who has an IS who needs more speed still, that's what it's designed for. Like, most people are like looking at the IS and they're like, I'm slowing it down. It's too fast.
Right.
But like there are businesses out there that do run multiple shifts a day and literally need as much time as they can get, and so they are looking for a little bit more. And that's really where that comes in, is that the ISM gives the customer the ability, and again, percentage wise, it's about a 30% increase over the IS. So think about that. You're 33% more on an IS than a Pro, and you're another 30% on a ISM. So that means the ISM to the Pro is 63% more efficient.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So it's the ISM is really it's kind of its own unique category. It's not a versatility driven machine as much as it is a high production driven machine.
Right.
That's the big difference, is that the IS is very versatile. You can add a knife to it, an OptiScout. You can do some of this extra stuff. The ISM is more streamlined production. I'm cutting the same thing over and over, high speed. I need to produce as many of them as I can.
Brandon, in a competition of hamburgers, would you say the ISM is more like a steak?
In a competition of hamburgers, the ISM is a steak. Absolutely.
Okay.
Higher quality, it's the IS and the ISM are built very similarly. Like I said, they have the same similar frame, but it's just a heavier wall frame on the ISM. They both have Mitsubishi servos on it. It's just a higher accuracy servo system on the ISM. They have some stuff on the ISM that makes the machine in a class of its own. I mean, realistically, the ISM competes against machines that are 150 grand and more. That's where you are. You're not competing. We have so many competitors out there that, again, they try to point out like, oh yeah, no, this level of ours competes with their ISM. Like, don't let them lie to you. Like, there is not a single machine on the market to date under 100 grand that competes against the ISM. Not a single one.
No, there's not. It's not even close.
That's really what our goal was, though. We were trying to achieve something that nobody else was doing. We were trying to give people an option to expand their capabilities. And there's some new options that we're working on right now with the R&D department that, I'm not going to give the secrets away on yet, but we're very, very close to releasing some more features of that ISM, which just give you higher production shops. We're really going to cater the ISM more to a shop where you're running 3 shifts a day, 5 to 7 days a week. I mean, that's what that machine is designed around. It's the idea of time is money and I don't have enough of it,
Right. No, I'm following you. The ISM's a great machine. Absolutely. Hands down. Nothing competes with that.
Absolutely. No, I think that's where you start to look at that. Is that's going to give you some advantages in speed. Again, where let's go back to the topic of where does an ISM fit into? Well, I think it's the same category as the IS. You got your fabricating shops. You got your woodworking shops. You got your sign shops. You got all those same shops, but it's going to be on a high production, streamlined stuff. And then I think you add in one unique category is going to be aerospace shops. A lot more to consider there in the aerospace world with the ISM, where you're not necessarily going to be looking at an aerospace level machine on some of the lower level machines just because of tolerances.
Right, absolutely.
So I think that's going to kind of wrap up the router aspect of things. Now let's talk real quick about plasma, right?
Plasma.
We have two lines of plasma, correct? We have our
Sidekick series,
Sidekick 4, 8, 10, and 12, and then we have our ShopMaster 8, 10, or 12.
Yep.
And I think this is one of those things that people, again, it's that mentality of the way we buy things as consumers. Is some people look at it as like, I want the best one. I want the best one you have. So I automatically I need the ShopMaster. Like, like there's so many people that try to come to us thinking that they got to spend $60,000 on a machine when realistically they don't have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, if you want to just spend money, we'll help you. But the reality is the Sidekick is the number one machine we sell in plasma. It is considered what they call light industrial machine. And the reason it's called light industrial is because it's literally designed for your lighter materials. And when I say lighter materials, we're talking your sub 2 inch. That's really what it is. I mean, when you start looking at, most people are running air plasma systems, right? They're cutting a PowerMax system is the number one system on the market right now. So a PowerMax Sync. And when you look at that system, you're looking at a 45 amp, 65 amp, 85 amp, 105 amp cutter, right?
And up to 125.
Yeah, and the 125 in the rare cases, obviously that's a lot less because obviously it requires higher voltage power, and not a lot of people have that. But as you start looking at those, kind of let's look at the bread and butter, 105s and down. Your maximum thickness with a 105, which is the biggest cutter, the maximum pierce on that is a 5/8 inch pierce.
Right.
So if that's what you're doing, if that's what you're cutting regularly and working with regularly, then it probably doesn't make sense to go ShopMaster. You don't need this heavy duty machine because the limitation again is the cutter. And so I would say let's start there. If the limiting factor is your cutter, let's start and work back from that. Either machine, the Sidekick or the ShopMaster, is going to be more accurate than your cutter, hands down.
Oh yeah,
more accurate than your cutter.
Oh yeah.
So now if you're limited by your cutter, right? Now why spend more money than you have to? Now let's just start fitting the options or the features to what size, table you're looking for. So that's where you start looking at the shop. The Sidekick system is going to be, realistically a little bit more budget friendly when you start looking at it. You start looking at generally typical shops can afford to put a Sidekick in there. You can find, where do we find Sidekicks? Entry level hobbyist shops. We see a lot of guys in their home garages, fabricating, right?
Yep.
But we also see it in your sign shops. You have a lot of people cut metal art, ton of people cut metal art. Yep. You got it in your fabricators, guys making snowplow parts or, tractor parts or, lawnmower parts or whatever.
Right.
You see a lot of people in that application.
Farmers, real popular with the farm community.
Yeah, I say a lot of agricultural, stuff. We got a lot going on there with the farmers and whatnot. And then you start looking at construction. You see people in the construction world building stuff, forms and, repair stuff. And, they got stuff in that application. But then you start seeing like the power sports. We see a lot of people making stuff for, let's say side-by-sides. You got a lot of people making stuff for, snowmobiles. We've got people that are making them for race cars. We got people who are making custom trailers. You got a lot of stuff in that custom fabrication world, if you will, the power sports world. And then from there, you go into really your production shops. You have guys who are cutting brackets day in and day out with those machines, and that's what they're designed for. Yep. So the Sidekick kind of is a Swiss Army knife, if you will, because what one cool thing about the Sidekick is it can literally be a Swiss Army knife. It has the ability to become a combo table where you can add a router to that machine and now use it for your plastics, your foam, your wood, that type of stuff. And when you start looking at that, it's like, okay, I have one machine that can really attack multiple different parts of my business.
It's definitely become pretty popular as well. You're seeing more guys gravitate towards that combo table too.
Well, I think when you think about that, you might not need it, right? It's not something you go after, but just imagine, put yourself in a scenario for one moment. Like, you're cutting steel all day, every day for a customer of yours, right?
Yep.
Good customer of yours, he does $1 million a year. But that customer of yours suddenly lands this job that he needs $50,000 worth of plastic cut, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, yeah, he spends $1 million with you a year in metal cutting, but he's got $50,000 jobs in plastic. You probably don't give a whole lot about his $50,000 plastic job. You want to keep that $1 million metal job. That's what you're really doing, right?
Right.
The problem is you say no to that plastic job, and he's got to find somebody to say yes to it, right?
Yep.
Well, what does that $50,000 plastic job do to that customer?
That's huge.
It opens the door because he might get $1 million metal job, because if he bids it enough, the guy might just want to do everything at one place, right?
Right. That gives that guy the opportunity to take your business.
Correct. You're basically giving him a foot in the door at that point. Like,
Yep.
And that's where I think the advantage to the ShopSabre comes in, is that you just simply add a feature to your plasma, and you can say yes to that stuff. And when you say yes to that stuff, now you can keep that customer of yours happy, and you don't ever have to worry about competing against somebody else, because you simply were able to say yes. So by having a Swiss Army knife, if you will, you're able to just go crush it.
You are. I love that machine. It's an awesome machine. You see a lot of guys gravitating towards that way. Gives them a lot of flexibility.
And I'll say hands down, there isn't a machine on the market to date that can do the amount of routing that machine can. I mean, when you think about that from a combo table, most plasma tables are lucky if they can do plasma. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, really, some of these machines, it's like, is that thing going to even cut? Like, it's going to fall apart. It's
Well,
gonna
yeah,
fall
I mean,
over.
you look at
they're so lightweight.
You look at the gantries on half of them, and there's no way they would support a router.
Why doesn't mine look like that? Ah!
Zero chance. Half of them barely can support a plasma. So,
Right.
When you look at that, it's like watching Garrett with his false leg. You weren't going to have him, holding up a building.
Right.
Like,
A false leg? What's a false leg?
and when you have that fake boot thing on your leg,
Oh, yeah, I just use that to go to work for a month.
I just used that to get out of work. I like it. But it's like, I mean, seriously, like, you weren't able to carry a whole lot of weight. You weren't able to do a lot. It looked the same as, you walked around doing your normal thing, but we knew you couldn't, I couldn't give you a desk and tell you to carry it down the stairs.
He walked like a pirate, sir.
Not anymore, he doesn't.
No, he did, though.
Now he walks like 50 Cent.
Yes, he does.
But we call him 46 cents.
46 cents. I call him spare change.
Spare change. That's his nickname.
Unbelievable.
Garrett's new nickname is Spare Change. Garrett, how's that leg doing, by the way? We haven't heard a lot about that lately.
It smells funny, and the dog's always messing with it.
I think it's doing better. I think I'm going to try snowboarding this week.
Are you
or
back
next week.
snowboarding yet?
Yeah, I think this week or next week I'm going to give her a go.
Wow.
Sir.
Trying to get out there and do
Yeah,
that.
I
Huh?
miss
Sir, make sure you put up an ad for a social media guy.
I was just going to say, so by the following weekend, we're going to have him in another leg brace.
Or a neck brace. It's Garrett, man.
Oh, God. Hey, Garrett, you've had too many issues in the last year. Can you not get hurt
Too
again?
many issues.
Maybe
All
you
right,
should
that's
stick
enough.
to tubing. You know, like tubing. We need you in one piece.
Speaking of tubing, because you go up to that place up by your house there, right?
I do.
Springbrook or whatever they call it. That place has a really nice tubing thing. I took my kids up there.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I used to work there. I used to work on that
Going
hill.
flying down the hill, and I thought to myself, like, yep, Garrett's going to get hurt.
I used to work on that hill, and I'd push the people down. I'd be the one making sure you don't die.
If I'm not mistaken, Garrett, I believe you told me a story about the first time you went snowboarding ever.
Yeah.
And you broke your arm.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Pretty bad break too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I still go though, so that just shows I'm determined.
So you literally started off snowboarding with an 0-for-1 career, huh?
Correct.
Yeah, I think really that just speaks a magnitude about a person's character though, if they're willing to overcome that.
I love how you spun that. That was nice. Like, hey, you know what? I just epically failed, but hey, guess what, guys? I got back up, so it makes me cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see how your softball career rebounds.
Yeah, how's your softball career going?
We're ready to get back into summer league. We're getting close.
Did the team cut you?
Nope.
But
Man,
Brandon,
they must be desperate.
we should probably wrap up with the shop master and let me get back to work here. We were gonna do a short show, but we're already an hour into this thing.
All right, well, ShopMaster, it's a high def system. When you think about it, it's something really designed around high production. I think, like you said, the shop master is going to have the ability to do heavier cutting. Guys who are running thick plates, is capable of up to 6 inches, so you can put oxyacetylene or oxy-fuel torches on there. Really popular with the Max Pro 200, the HPR, the XPR units by Hypertherm. It really is designed for higher production, heavy cutting, where you're going to need, some of this auto gas console type stuff where you're really getting into heavy cutting applications. Can you still put an air plasma on it? Absolutely. If you want to run something that is, an air plasma on the Shopmaster, we have lots of people have done it. We put drills on them. We run heavy applications where guys are running 2-3 shifts a day, and the Shopmaster makes sense because then you're not cleaning the table as often, right? Yeah. It's a bigger tank on that machine, so you can run more shifts, consistently. And that's where that Shopmaster maybe comes into play. But the reality is, the most popular place we see the Shopmaster is going to be in an application where you're getting into high definition.
Yep. Someone that requires maybe tighter hole tolerances, things like that.
Realistically, the machine itself doesn't really help you with the hole tolerances, but it gives you the ability, like you said, to get into the XPR stuff, where then that will hold a little bit better tolerances and some of that, just because of the technology there. But again, you're even kind of limited there. When you start looking at plasma, you start going, your hole tolerances are a flame. Again, hole tolerances don't necessarily change a lot from one to the other, as much as it is your thickness and your bevel. You're going to get less bevel on thicker materials with a higher cut quality. So when you get into XPR, that's where you start to see it. And it's not necessarily the hole tolerances as much as it is the kerf, and the kerf ultimately produces the better hole.
Much cleaner cuts.
Much cleaner cuts.
Shelf-ready parts, weld-ready parts.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think, again, like I said, we're supposed to keep this a short episode, and we got really kind of long-winded on some of this stuff. But I think it was important to go through all the options and make sure all the different levels so people understand kind of where the different machines are. But, ultimately, there's nothing that's going to beat calling us, right? There's nothing that beats picking the phone up and calling and talking to one of the sales team members. Say, let us go through and talk about your application, and let's pick out the right machine for your application. But hopefully this will kind of steer you in the right direction on which machine you think might, fit you best.
No, I think we covered a lot of really good stuff, and we got a little long, but it's something that we'll come back to. It's really good information. It'll help people kind of, hey, what machine is right for me? What application? What machine should I be looking at?
Exactly. No, I agree 100% with that. I think there's a lot of good things that we talked about here, and obviously I miss being in the office here, being able to chat with everybody and whatnot. So obviously, if you need anything, though, reach out. My team is always standing by, and myself, I'm always checking emails, trying to help where I can. So like I said, we're all here to help out. We want to answer questions, right? Yeah,
you're still steering the ship from the other side of the country.
Even though somebody stole my bucket.
Somebody stole your bucket.
Woo! Okay, you, Garrett.
I'll have him sanitize it.
Well, I'm Brandon.
I'm Jesse.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSabre.